There are moments in life that begin quietly, so quietly you might miss them if you blink, but later become the kind of memories that shake the soul. This story begins on a warm afternoon in a small family restaurant, where sunlight spilled through wide glass windows and settled softly on the tables. People laughed, plates clattered, the smell of fresh fries filled the air, and yet, in one corner, a young woman stood frozen as if every sound in the world had disappeared. Her daughter, a tiny girl no older than 4, stared wide-eyed at the plates of crispy chicken and golden fries placed before a father and his young daughter at the next table. And in that moment, even from across the room, anyone could see it, hunger, innocence, and yearning mixing into one heartbreaking expression. The mother noticed it too, and her eyes filled with panic. She grasped her daughter's hand, lowered her head, and turned as if to leave silently without drawing attention to their situation. She didn't want pity. She didn't want eyes. She only wanted to disappear. Before the story unfolds, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of good people still existing in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps stories like this reach more hearts. The mother's name was Meera, a woman who once had dreams as bright as the morning sky but whose life had slowly been overshadowed by circumstances she never saw coming. After her husband abandoned them without warning, leaving behind debts and empty promises, Meera found herself juggling 2 small jobs, sleepless nights, and a constant fear of failing her little daughter, Lila. Their days were built around survival. Their nights were built around hope. And yet hope was sometimes harder to find than food. That day, Meera had walked into the restaurant not to eat but to collect a job application. She had been told they needed part-time help, and she had rehearsed what she would say with trembling nerves. She hadn't planned on her daughter witnessing other families enjoying food while she had nothing to offer. She hadn't planned on her stomach growling loud enough for Lila to hear. And she definitely hadn't planned on Lila stopping dead in her tracks, transfixed by the plates on the neighboring table. The man at that table was Adam, a single father raising his 10-year-old daughter, Emily. He was dressed simply, a man who had learned to navigate life with quiet strength. His daughter sat beside him, full of youthful joy, chatting about school and friends. Their table was filled with food, not a feast, but enough to look like luxury to a starving child. Adam noticed the little girl's gaze first. Her small hands clutched the edge of her mother's dress, her eyes locked on the chicken as if she were watching the answer to a prayer she hadn't dared to speak out loud. There was something about hunger in a child's eyes that pierced deeper than words. It wasn't noisy. It didn't scream. It simply sat there, silent, pure, and impossible to ignore. Meera saw Adam noticing them and instantly tugged her daughter away, whispering apologies in a shaky voice, desperate to disappear before anyone could think she was begging. In her world, dignity was one of the few things she still had left, and she protected it fiercely. But Lila's small footsteps faltered, her head turning again toward the food as though her heart refused to listen to her mother's urgency. Adam stood up slowly, torn between respecting their privacy and wanting to help. He had known struggle before. He had known the kind of days where pride bites you harder than hunger. He couldn't just sit there. He couldn't pretend he hadn't seen. Something inside him refused to let the moment pass. Meera tried to hurry to the door, her heart pounding with the familiar mix of fear and embarrassment. She hated this feeling, this quiet shame that came from not being able to give her daughter simple things. In her pocket was enough money for bus fare and 1 loaf of bread. That was it for the day. She had hoped to stretch it across 2 meals. Every step toward the exit was heavy, each one a reminder that life had reduced her to this. And then everything paused. Lila tugged at her mother's hand and turned to look back once more, her eyes big, honest, and filled with longing. Adam couldn't bear it. He walked closer, not fast, not loud, just with a gentle determination that carried warmth rather than judgment. There was nothing in his expression that hinted at pity. Only empathy. Only a desire to make the world better if he could, even for one moment. Meera tried to speak, to apologize again, to explain, but her voice cracked before any words could form. She held her daughter's hand tighter, as if preparing to run from kindness before it hurt more than hardship ever had. But then Lila looked up at her mother with those innocent eyes, and Myra's shoulders slumped. She was tired, tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of pretending she didn't need help when the truth was slowly crushing her. Adam gently invited them to join the table. Meera refused at first, shaking her head with tears forming despite her attempts to blink them back. But Adam didn't step away. He remained patient, calm, and genuinely kind, offering his seat and splitting the food without hesitation. Emily smiled warmly at Lila, sliding her plate closer with childlike generosity. And finally, with a trembling exhale, Meera allowed herself to sit. The first bite Lila took was small, but it carried the weight of 100 silent prayers. Meera watched her daughter eat with trembling lips, a mixture of relief and guilt washing over her. But Adam spoke softly, sharing his own story, how he had struggled after losing his wife, how raising Emily alone had broken him in ways he never admitted to anyone. He knew how survival felt. He knew what it meant to swallow pride for the sake of your child. For the first time in months, Meera felt seen, not judged, not pitied, but understood. The kindness in Adam's gesture lit a spark inside her, a reminder that good people still existed, even in a world that often felt cold. As the meal went on, the restaurant seemed to grow quieter, as though the universe itself had paused to witness the small miracle happening at that table. When they finished eating, Meera tried to offer money, what little she had, but Adam gently refused. He instead asked how he could help her and her daughter beyond that meal. The question struck her heart so deeply that she almost forgot how to breathe. Help wasn't something she expected. Help wasn't something she believed she deserved anymore. But for the first time in a long while, she felt hope rising again. Before we continue, if this story is touching your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread. Your support helps us spread real stories of compassion and humanity. As they spoke, Adam recommended Meera for a flexible job opportunity where she could bring Lila along when needed. He even helped her fill out forms and arrange transportation. Emily and Lila played nearby, laughing, their small voices carrying through the room like music. It felt like the beginning of something new, something brighter than anything Meera had dared to imagine. Before the ending, please comment below what part of the story touched your heart the most. Weeks passed, and Meera's life began to stabilize little by little. She started earning enough not just for survival but for comfort. Lila blossomed with the stability, her laughter returning like sunshine after a long storm. And though Meera never forgot the pain she endured, she also never forgot the moment everything changed, the moment one man noticed her daughter staring at his food and chose kindness over indifference. In the end, this wasn't a story about struggle alone. It was a story about humanity, how a single act of compassion can lift someone from the darkest chapter of their life and guide them toward a future filled with hope. And as Meera held her daughter one evening, whispering promises of a better tomorrow, she knew deeply that sometimes, the smallest moments become the biggest miracles. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Thread, and help us spread more stories that remind the world what kindness truly means.